Imagine living your whole life as an emotional sponge soaking up pain, grief, and frustration from everyone around you. You're the dependable friend who always picks up the phone, the partner who offers understanding even when you're hurting inside, the coworker who never complains. You've convinced yourself that your purpose is to be the emotional support for the world. And while others rely on your empathy, a storm brews quietly inside, a pressure that builds every time you smile through your own suffering. One day, without warning, something inside snaps. It doesn't merely crack, it shatters. This isn't a random breakdown, it's a profound psychological event, one that Carl Gustav Jung, a pioneering figure in modern psychology, studied and warned about. When an empath finally breaks, what erupts isn't just anger. It's raw, primal, and essential. Jung's insights were revolutionary because they didn't just offer an explanation, they offered a wake-up call. Carl Jung, who lived from 1875 to 1961, fundamentally altered how we understand the human mind. Originally mentored by Sigmund Freud, Jung eventually departed from Freud's theories to create his own approach, analytical psychology. Unlike Freud, Jung went deeper into the spiritual and mythological dimensions of human consciousness. His major works like The Red Book, Psychological Types, and The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious reflect an obsession with the parts of ourselves we ignore, the parts we fear and deny. Jung didn't develop these theories from the comfort of an academic office. He lived through them. Between 1913 and 1917, Jung experienced what he later called a confrontation with the unconscious. During this period, he documented intense visions, dreams, and inner conflicts. From this raw, personal struggle, emerged his insights on the shadow, the persona, and the high cost of living a life out of alignment with our true selves.
What Jung understood, perhaps better than anyone before or since, is that we are not made of light alone. We are not solely kind, rational, and giving. Within each of us exists a paradox. We are capable of deep compassion and surprising cruelty, of clarity and confusion, of love and indifference. And for empaths, those who absorb the emotions of others with incredible sensitivity, this contradiction becomes especially dangerous. Empaths don't just notice suffering, they feel it as if it were their own. They can detect lies not from logic, but from a shift in energy. They often walk away from social situations emotionally drained, weighed down by emotional burdens that aren't even theirs. You might be one of these people. You've likely been praised for being so understanding, for always being there, and perhaps even told your empathy is your superpower. But Jung would challenge that view. He would say you're at risk, serious risk. In Jung's pivotal work, Ion, he delves into the concept of the shadow, the part of ourselves we try desperately to ignore. He described it as containing all the traits we reject: anger, selfishness, jealousy, rage. His famous quote captures it starkly. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Think about that. Every time you swallowed your anger, every time you said, "It's okay," when it clearly wasn't, every moment you held back your own needs to avoid disappointing someone, that's shadow fuel. It builds quietly. And for empaths, who are often taught from childhood to prioritize the emotions of others, this suppression becomes chronic. You learned early on that your value came from being helpful, kind, and agreeable. So you silenced the parts of you that screamed for fairness, space, and dignity. Jung warned that the shadow doesn't vanish just because we repress it. It doesn't dissolve with time. Instead, it grows in power, lurking in the dark corners of our psyche, feeding off denial. He explained that the more we try to be purely good,
the more pressure builds behind the scenes. Eventually, that suppressed side of you will force its way into consciousness. It has to. Because psychological health, what Jung called wholeness, requires all parts of us, even the parts we don't like. Let's bring this to life with an example. Consider a woman named Sarah. Since childhood, Sarah has been the emotional caretaker of her family. Her mother struggled with depression. Her father had explosive anger. Sarah, still a child, learned to be the calming presence, the fixer, the emotional glue that held everything together. That role never stopped. As an adult, she attracted relationships that mirrored her family dynamics: needy partners, unstable friends, and a career in therapy where she could continue the pattern professionally. She was praised endlessly for her empathy. But inside, Sarah was eroding. She never once allowed herself to express true anger. She never said, "I can't help right now, I'm exhausted." Until one random Tuesday,
During a simple conversation, her sister asked for another favor. It was small, but it was the last straw. Something inside Sarah snapped, not with screaming or dramish. She simply walked out, got in her car, and disappeared for 3 days. When she returned, she was different. No more people-pleasing, no more automatic yeses. She said no. She distanced herself from long-standing relationships. To outsiders, it looked like a breakdown, but Jung would have called it something else. The shadow finally stepping forward. In The Undiscovered Self, Jung lays this out clearly. He argued that the shadow holds not just our evil traits, but our unlived lives, the parts of us that never got expressed, the voices that were shushed in favor of being agreeable. He even posed a radical question. What if the person we most need to show compassion to is ourselves? Jung's revolutionary message is this: true compassion begins when we extend it inward. The empath who showers love on others but withholds it from themselves is not truly whole. They're playing a role, what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear to fit in and be accepted. The problem with this mask is that it becomes so fused with our identity that we forget it's just a role. We think, this is who I am. I'm the helper, the healer, the one who always understands. But Jung cautioned that this rigid identification with persona creates a dangerous imbalance. Every time you suppress your truth to maintain the image of the understanding one, you push another fragment of your real self into the shadow. Every time you smile while wanting to scream, every time you say it's fine when it's absolutely not, your shadow gets denser, and it doesn't stay quiet forever. Jung observed that the shadow often first shows up in our projections. That is, we see in others what we cannot accept in ourselves. For empaths, this might look like resenting people who set strong boundaries, or labeling assertive individuals as cold or selfish. If you've ever found yourself judging someone for doing what you secretly wish you had the courage to do, you've experienced projection. It's not a flaw, it's a signal, a breadcrumb trail leading back to a disowned part of yourself. And when that shadow finally takes over, it's not subtle. The empath who's always given suddenly becomes shockingly selfish. The ever-patient friend lashes out in rage. The caretaker retreats into icy detachment. Jung had a word for this phenomenon: enantiodromia, a Greek term meaning to run in the opposite direction. His theory? Any extreme, when carried too far, will eventually flip into its opposite. So, if you've been nothing but giving, the snap will feel like destruction. But in Jung's eyes, it's actually the psyche's desperate attempt to restore balance. The return of the shadow is not a glitch, it's a design feature. It's your mind fighting to survive. It's your soul demanding to be seen, not just the light, but the shadow too. Let's go back to Sarah. After her break, people didn't recognize her. She started saying no without guilt. She cut ties with those who drained her. She no longer softened her opinions to spare others' feelings. Some called her selfish. But Sarah was finally being honest with herself and with the world. This was not weakness. It was healing. It was integration. And it's not just about individual survival. Jung believed this failure to confront the shadow is a threat to society itself. In The Undiscovered Self, written during the Cold War, he warned that our refusal to own our darkness is what enables collective evil. People project their disowned traits onto the other and then feel justified in destroying them. Empaths, too, are not immune to this. When their shadow erupts, it often lands on innocent bystanders or turns inward, leading to depression, self-loathing, or worse. Jung's ultimate insight was this: shadow integration isn't optional, it's essential. Without it, the empath becomes a ticking time bomb. But with it, they become something far more powerful, whole, resilient, and authentically compassionate. He famously wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is where many well-meaning empaths struggle. They strive to be more kind, more giving, more light, but in doing so, they inadvertently deepen their shadow. Because real transformation doesn't come from polishing your good traits. It comes from turning toward the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Imagine the courage it takes for an empath to admit, "Sometimes I'm resentful. Sometimes I want to be left alone. Sometimes I help others so they'll need me, not just because I care." These admissions feel dangerous because they shatter the persona. But this is exactly where healing begins. So how does one begin this integration? Jung offers a path, the process of individuation. This is the lifelong journey toward becoming your full self, not the mask, not the role, but the totality of who you are. It begins with recognizing your shadow, not with shame, but with curiosity. What emotions do you constantly suppress? What kinds of people irritate you the most, and why? What roles do you cling to that feel noble, but might be hiding your fear of vulnerability? Next comes allowing safe expression of shadow elements. That might look like journaling thoughts you'd never dare say aloud. It might mean letting yourself feel angry without immediately rationalizing it away. It might mean practicing saying no without 1,000 justifications. Then comes the hardest part: examining the hidden rewards of your empath identity. Jung insisted that we don't maintain patterns unless they serve us. So ask, what have you gained by being the one who understands? Maybe you feel needed. Maybe you avoid your own chaos by focusing on others. Maybe it's easier to give help than to receive it. Acknowledging these motivations doesn't make you manipulative, it makes you honest. And from that honesty grows true psychological strength. Take a moment now to think about your own patterns. When was the last time you felt resentment but swallowed it? When was the last time you helped someone while secretly hoping they'd recognize your effort and return the favor? These aren't signs of failure. They're signs of humanity. And for the empath, becoming truly human, flawed, complex, and whole is the path to sustainable empathy. Jung said that once the shadow is integrated, we no longer react compulsively. We no longer snap. We choose how to respond, from a place of awareness, not repression. Let's deepen this with one of Jung's most powerful paradoxes. Only when we embrace our wholeness, including our flaws and darker instincts, can we genuinely serve others. Why? Because then our compassion is no longer a performance. It's a conscious act, grounded in reality, not an unconscious strategy to earn love, avoid rejection, or maintain control. The empath who has done the shadow work, who knows they're capable of anger, selfishness, and withdrawal, but chooses kindness anyway, that person is powerful beyond measure. Their empathy is no longer draining because it's not coming from a place of compulsion. It's not, I have to help or I'll feel guilty. It becomes, I choose to help because I can without abandoning myself. Jung made this distinction clear in his writings on the persona. He described it as a necessary mask, something we all use to navigate social life. But he warned that when we identify too strongly with this mask, we lose contact with our authentic self. For empaths, the persona is often the good one, the nurturer, the understanding soul. But that's only one layer. Beneath it is the full spectrum of emotions, needs, and impulses, many of which have never had a voice. And here's where things get dangerous. Because the more we disown these parts, the more we risk what Jung called psychic inflation. That's when the ego becomes over-identified with the persona, and the shadow grows in equal measure behind the scenes. Eventually, the psyche will rebel, and often in extreme, disruptive ways. That rebellion may look like burnout, or depression, or sudden rage, or walking away from everything and everyone you once supported. It's the soul screaming, I matter too. Jung's answer isn't to stop being empathetic. It's to ground that empathy in wholeness. Integration means setting boundaries not because you're mean, but because you respect yourself. It means acknowledging you can't be everything to everyone, and that trying to do so isn't virtuous. It's self-destructive. Let's revisit Sarah. After her snap, she felt guilt. How could she turn her back on people she'd supported for decades? But with time, she saw the truth. She hadn't turned her back on them. She'd finally turned toward herself. And in doing so, she became capable of offering a new kind of presence. Not one fueled by obligation, but by choice. Not drained, but full. That's the gift of integration. That's what Jung wanted us to understand. To many empaths, this shift may feel like betrayal, especially if their identity has been built around always being the strong one, the good listener, or the healer. But Jung emphasized that these roles, when over-identified with, become prisons. They keep us stuck in one-dimensional lives. And when we deny our complexity, our psyche eventually demands balance, often through pain. So how do you start living in a more integrated way? First, stop idealizing empathy itself. While empathy is a beautiful trait, it's not inherently virtuous if it comes at the cost of self. Jung would say, any virtue that creates imbalance is a sign of shadow avoidance. Compassion that excludes the self is incomplete. So instead of aiming to be endlessly empathetic, aim to be whole. Let your empathy include yourself. Second, normalize discomfort. Integration is not cozy. It will feel awkward and wrong at first to set boundaries, to express anger, to decline requests. That's because you've been taught those things are bad. But they're not. They're human. And every time you choose discomfort over self-erasure, you're reclaiming another piece of yourself. Third, be vigilant about projection. The traits you criticize harshly in others may be the very things you've disowned in yourself. When someone's behavior triggers you disproportionately, ask, is this reflecting something I'm not allowing myself to feel or express? That moment of reflection is where the shadow becomes conscious. That's
where transformation begins.
Let's consider another scenario. Imagine someone named Daniel. He's the friend everyone turns to for emotional support. He listens for hours, validates feelings, gives thoughtful advice, but secretly he's exhausted. He envies the people who say no without guilt. He judges those who are blunt or indifferent. He tells himself they're cold, but deep down he wishes he could be that honest. What Daniel doesn't realize is he's projecting his disowned shadow. Until one day Daniel doesn't return a friend's call. He ignores texts. He isolates. And when he finally emerges, he feels relief. Guilt, yes, but also relief. And in that moment, he sees the truth. He's not just an empath. He's also a person with limits, a person with unspoken needs, a person who deserves rest and space and the freedom to say no. This realization, though difficult, is liberating. And it doesn't mean Daniel becomes cold or selfish. Quite the opposite. He becomes capable of offering empathy from a grounded, honest place. Not because he has to, but because he chooses to. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation. Not perfection, not sainthood, but realness. And real people contain contradictions. Real people can care deeply and still walk away.
They can be kind and still say no. They can help others and still ask for help themselves. Jung's wisdom speaks directly to those who've spent their lives putting others first. It's a wake-up call, not to abandon compassion, but to anchor it in truth. Because when your compassion is fueled by compulsion rather than choice, it becomes performative. It drains you, and eventually, it breaks you. To truly understand this, we must look at how the empath identity can quietly serve as a defense mechanism. Jung pointed out that many people cling to personas not just to be accepted, but to avoid deeper fears, like the fear of being seen as selfish, or worse, being abandoned. For many empaths, helping others becomes a way to secure emotional safety. After all, people are less likely to leave the one who always helps, right? But that safety comes at a high price, your authenticity. So, what does it look like to step out of the persona and into wholeness? It starts with uncomfortable honesty.
Ask yourself, when I say yes, am I doing it freely or out of fear? When I help others, do I secretly hope to be appreciated or even needed? When I hold back my anger, is it to keep the peace or to avoid confrontation at all costs? These questions aren't meant to shame you. They're meant to help you see the full picture. Because behind every compulsive yes is often a scared no. Behind every forced smile might be a stifled scream. And you cannot keep hiding those truths without consequences. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And for empaths, that privilege includes accepting their entire emotional range, not just the nice parts. Your anger is not a flaw. Your exhaustion is not weakness. Your desire for solitude, space, and even selfishness at times, these are not signs that you're broken. They are signs that you are human. Let me share another real-world moment. A woman named Elisa had spent years as the go-to person in her friend group. She organized birthdays, gave advice at midnight, and offered support during every crisis. But after a particularly draining year, she began to withdraw. When friends reached out, she didn't respond. When they asked for help, she declined. At first, she was consumed by guilt, but eventually she felt something she hadn't felt in years: clarity. She realized she'd been helping not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being left,
of being irrelevant, of being unloved if she wasn't constantly giving. And in that moment, Elisa reclaimed her power, not by becoming heartless, but by becoming honest. This is the paradox Jung revealed. The more we try to be only light, the more shadow we create. But when we embrace our complexity, we become truly luminous, not because we've hidden our darkness, but because we've integrated it. And that's the ultimate transformation Jung envisioned, not the elimination of darkness, but the conscious coexistence of all parts of the self. He called it individuation, and it was, to him,
The deepest psychological and spiritual goal a person could strive for. But let's be honest, this isn't easy work. It's easier to play the role. It's easier to be the one who always says yes, who always understands, who never causes waves. People reward you for that. Society praises selflessness. But Jung's point is clear. The persona, however praised, is not your true self. And if you cling to it for too long, the cost is staggering. Mental collapse, emotional explosions, relationships destroyed, or a life lived in quiet, constant resentment. When an empath finally snaps, it's not random. It's not a flaw in character. It's a predictable, even necessary rupture caused by years of psychological imbalance. As Jung put it, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The snap is that pain made visible, the moment the shadow demands its rightful place in the light. So how can we prevent the snap, or at least lessen its impact?
It starts with cultivating small, honest acts of self-acknowledgement. You don't have to change overnight. You don't need to become confrontational or start cutting people off. But you do need to begin noticing where you've been lying to yourself in the name of being good. When someone asks you for help, pause. Check in with yourself. Do you genuinely want to help, or do you feel obligated? If it's the latter, give yourself permission to decline. Not rudely, not with guilt, but clearly. I'd love to help, but I'm at capacity right now. That sentence alone can save you from months of silent resentment. And when you feel anger, let yourself feel it. Not to lash out, but to listen. Your anger often carries important messages. It might be telling you a boundary was crossed, that you've been taken for granted, that you've abandoned your own needs for too long. Another way to integrate shadow is through creative or physical expression. Jung encouraged active imagination, writing, painting, or dialoguing with the parts of yourself you've silenced. Others may find release through movement, dance, martial arts, intense workouts. What matters is that your shadow has a voice, not a destructive one, but a safe, honest one. And perhaps most importantly, surround yourself with people who support your whole self, not just your helpful side. People who welcome your boundaries, your moods, your complexity. These relationships are rare but essential because they remind you you are allowed to take up space, to have needs, to be seen fully. This journey toward integration is not a rejection of empathy, it's the maturation of it. Real empathy isn't about absorbing everyone's pain like a sponge until you collapse. It's about being present with others and with yourself. It's about knowing your limits and honoring them, about giving from a full cup instead of a cracked, empty one. Jung believed that by integrating the shadow,
We don't become less compassionate. We become more authentic in our compassion. No longer driven by unconscious needs to be needed or to be seen as good, we are free to choose when and how we show up. And this choice, made from a grounded self, is more powerful, more sustainable, and more deeply healing than anything we can offer when we're acting from a fractured identity. You may wonder, but if I stop being the helper, who am I? This is where the real work begins. Who are you really?
when you're not rescuing others, when you're not earning love through sacrifice, when you're no longer needed but simply are. That's the space where your true self starts to emerge. You might find parts of yourself you've forgotten, your anger, yes, but also your joy, your creativity, your desire for freedom, solitude, even wildness. These aren't threats to your identity as an empath. They're expansions of it. You're not just a feeler of pain. You're a full human being, rich with contrast, capable of light and dark, of giving and receiving. Let's circle back to Jung's own life.
During his confrontation with the unconscious, he met figures within himself, both wise and monstrous. He painted them, wrote to them, dialogued with them. One of the most powerful was Philemon, a guide and symbol of deep inner wisdom. But Jung also faced frightening images, visions that forced him to confront his own violence, irrationality, and chaos. Did this make him less wise? No. It made him more capable of guiding others through their darkness, because he had dared to face his own. This is the call to empaths, to do the same, to explore your interior world with the same depth and bravery you've shown others, to stop fleeing your shadow and instead sit with it, listen to it, learn from it. You might be surprised to discover that your shadow isn't here to destroy you. It's here to complete you. You were never meant to be only light. You were meant to be real. As we reach the end of this exploration, let's return to the essence of Jung's final warning. The empath's journey isn't about abandoning kindness. It's about anchoring that kindness in truth. Because the terrifying moment an empath snaps isn't just a psychological crisis. It's a call, a demand, a rupture that forces you to finally see what you've buried under years of self-sacrifice. If you've already snapped, Jung wouldn't say you've failed. He'd say, you've arrived. You're at the threshold of something profoundly important, the chance to live as a whole person, not a fragmented role, not the helper, not the savior, but the full, honest, complex human you were always meant to be. And if you haven't snapped yet, if you feel the pressure building, the fatigue deepening, the resentment whispering beneath your smile, then now is the time. Not to fear your shadow, but to greet it, to bring it into the light before it forces its own way out. This is not about perfection. Jung never promised that. He promised depth. He promised meaning. He believed that by engaging with the shadow, by consciously integrating the parts of ourselves we've tried to reject, we can reclaim a fuller, freer life. So start small. Start with honesty. Start by noticing when your yes means no, when your giving comes from guilt, when your silence masks anger. Start noticing, and then start choosing differently, not out of rebellion, but out of self-respect. And remember this, you are not just a caretaker. You are not just a source of comfort. You are not just a healer of others' wounds. You are a person, with wounds of your own, with limits, with needs, with a deep well of feeling that includes not only love and empathy, but also rage, grief, and desire. This is your humanity, and it is not something to suppress. It is something to embrace. So take this as your permission, not just from Jung, but from the voice inside you that has been whispering all along. It's okay to stop performing. It's okay to be real. If this message has spoken to you, if you've seen your own reflection in these words, don't keep this transformation to yourself. Subscribe to our channel for more insights that help you live more authentically. Leave a comment. Your story might be the mirror someone else desperately needs.
And share this video with someone you know is carrying too much, too quietly. They may not say it, but they might be close to snapping too. Let's create a space where empathy doesn't mean self-erasure, where light and shadow can coexist. Because that's not weakness, that's wholeness. That's what it means to become who you truly are.